Next, we are going to learn about filters in CSS3. So, filters basically applies visual effects to the HTML elements that you have on your web page. So, filters affects the element how it is going to look using the filter property. And there are a few predefined functions which filter uses. So, which are blur, brightness, contrast, and so on. So, we are going to look at each one of these functions one by one in the upcoming slides. So first we'll start with the blur function. So blur functions adds blur effect to the element. It takes length value which defines the blur radius, and the larger value will create more blur, and of course the lower value will have lower blur effect. So we can specify the blur function here, and as a parameter we can specify the value in pixels. So here is the output. So if this was your image and if you're using blur as a filter, you will see that this particular image has got blurred now. Moving forward, we will talk about the brightness. It sets brightness of an image, and the 0% value makes image completely black, and 100% or 1 leaves image unchanged. Value greater than 100% will make image more brighter. So this is one example where to a image we have applied classes img bright, and to another image we have specified the class name as image dark. So here you can see that the value is the function brightness, and in the first class I have specified value as 200, so of course it is going to be more brighter than the actual brightness. And in the second one we have reduced the brightness by specifying value using 50%. So this is the example. So you can see that the image is more brighter, so white tone is getting more brighter than the original image, and here the white tone has got reduced, so brightness has got reduced by 50%. Then we have contrast. So in contrast it will adjust the contrast of an image. Again 0% makes image completely black, 100% or 1 leaves image unchanged, and the value greater than 100% provides results with less contrast. So again in the similar fashion what we have done is applied the contrast instead of brightness. So in the first example it is 200, and in the second example it is 50%. So you can see a significant difference in terms of contrast. So this is almost double of the original image that we have, and this is reduced by 50%. Then we have drop shadow. It applies drop shadow to the given image. So drop shadow is very important effect in case you want to create a shadow to a HTML element. So this is almost similar to the box shadow property, but here we are making use of filter and we are specifying the drop shadow function. So again, this is the width of your shadow, and this is the depth of your shadow, and this is the shadow color. So you can see that this is nothing but 5 pixel, and the curve or the depth is being added using the third parameter, that is 15 pixel, and this is the color of your shadow. Then we have grayscale. It converts image into gray color. So even if you have a colored image, it will be displayed as a grayscale image. So 100% makes image completely grayscale, 0% leaves image unchanged. So this is one example. So this is 100% grayscale and this is 50% grayscale. So you can see a notable difference over here in the image. So this is completely grayscale and this is only 50% grayscale. Then we have hue-rotate. So it applies hue rotation on the image. So it's basically change the color combinations that is default to your image. So it basically changes in terms of degrees. So 0 degree leaves image unchanged. There is no maximum value, but the effect value above 360 wraps around automatically. So this is one example, and here we are rotating the hue by 120 degree, and in the second one we are rotating it by 400 degrees. So you can see the difference in terms of degrees. Overall most of the colors have got changed. You can see the notable difference that the colors have got changed, or the hue has got changed by rotating it. Then we have invert, which applies to the image the 100% or 1, it's completely inverts the image colors, or 0% means the image leaves unchanged. And negative values are not allowed in case of inverts. So in this example you can see that 80% colors will be inverted with this particular example, and here we are talking about changing 100%. So this is one example. So this is the 100% and this is 80%. So as you move to the lower range of values, let's say 1% or 0%, you will see that image has not significantly changed. Then we have opacity. So we have seen it, opacity applies transparency to the image. So again, value 0% is something that will make image completely transparent. 100% will leave your image unchanged, but you can specify values in the middle and you can achieve some level of transparency. So in the first example we have specified opacity as 30%, and hence you can see that the image is slightly transparent. When you have 70% as the value, the transparency is little less. Then we will talk about the sepia, which is very common effect that we see across images. And 100% or 1 is image will get the complete sepia effect, and 0% will leave image unchanged. So again, in this example we have 30% as the first value and 100% in the second. So you can see that it's a 100% sepia effect, and this one is just 30%. Then we will talk about the saturation. You can adjust the image saturation using this particular filter. So again, you can specify 0% to 100% values. So 101 will leave your image unchanged. 0% will completely unsaturate the image. So in this example we can see that this one is the completely unsaturated image because of the 0% that we have written, and this is the 100% saturation, and that is why it has not changed. So let us try to play around these values and these filters in the live coding sessions, so we'll get a better idea on how these filters work on the images. Alright, so we will take examples on filters, and in the example folder you can find the folder name filters. In this we have these two files, one is HTML, other one is CSS, and there is one image that we are going to use. It is this image that we will be using, and I have kept the file open over here in the Sublime Text. As you can see, this is the HTML file. We have referred the CSS file in the link tag, and then we have just a set of codes where we have added one h4 tag and then the image that I just mentioned, and then we have specified classes. So just as the name as the filter name, I have the class blur over here, and then subsequently we have brightness, contrast, and shadow, scale, rotate, and so on. So these are the classes that we'll just quickly see in the CSS file. So you can see that to the blur effect we have just added this simply filters, specified certain values to it, and this is something that is repeated across the CSS file. So you can just refer this code from the example folder. For now, let me just take you to the HTML page, and in the inspect box we will see each one of the CSS property one by one. So let me just make this a full screen. So I will open the inspect window, and you can see here for the first image we have set the class name as blur. You can see this is the original image, okay, and this is how it is looking after adding the blur effect. So we will just try changing these values from here. So you can see it is getting more blur when I'm increasing the pixel size, and when I'm reducing it, it is getting more clearer. So blur effect is vanishing. So to 0 it is the actual image, and we are increasing the blur effect by increasing the value. Then we have the brightness. Again, this is the original image, and you can see I have applied the brightness as 200. So when I reduce it, you can see that the brightness is coming down in the image. It's almost 150 now, and when I go to 100, you'll see it is almost the exact image, that is the original image. And when I reduce it further, you can see the brightness is going down, the image is becoming darker. Then in the contrast, we have a similar filter name, and I have set the values as 200. So if I reduce the value, you can see that it is coming towards the actual image. So at 100%, it will look like the exact image that we have currently. And when we reduce it furthermore, you can see that it is becoming kind of a blurry, I would say, or it is becoming less contrast. The contrast is reducing, so you can see that the image is not looking with the good contrast. So then we have the drop shadow, and in the drop shadow we have specified certain values over here. So you can see that I have added 5 pixels. So when I increase, you can see that the shadow is becoming wider, and similarly when I increase it from here, it is also changing its place from the x and y axis. So when I add 0 over here, okay, and also 0, so it will come exactly at the back side. But when I increase it, you can see that it is changing, or it is shifting its place. Then we have this particular variable, so we are changing the depth, or the curvature for the shadow. So you can see that it's almost like an image here when we just have 0 pixel, but when I start increasing, you can see that it is becoming a little blurry. So the final element is the shadow color, and that is something that you can use it either in RGB or some other format. Then we have grayscale. So grayscale 100% and 0%. So you can specify values between 100% and 0%. So 100% will become the grayscale 100%. So when I reduce, you can see it is starting to add colors to the image, and at towards zeros it will almost look like the original image. Okay, and towards 100% it will make most of the colors in gray tone. Then we have hue-rotate. So you can see over here, you can change the degree values, and you can see the difference in the hue modes. Okay, you can see there's a gradual change between hue that we have. Okay, and these values can be minus also. Okay, and it can even go above 360. So if you notice, let's say this is 10. Okay, and if you add 360, let's say 360, this is almost the original image, and when I add 10 to it, you can see that 10 and 370 is not different, it's almost the same. So what it is doing is rotationally keeping the same values above 360. Then we have invert. So invert basically inverts your color. So you can see in the original image we had white as the font color, it has become red. So it will take the inverse colors and it will try to invert most of the colors, and this inversion ratio you can specify from this particular parameter. You can increase or decrease it. Okay, and at 100% it will become more inverted, and at the lower percentage it will be closer to the image, you would say. So like this. Then we have opacity. So in opacity, it just makes your image semi-transparent. So towards 0, that means your image will be less and less visible, and towards 100% it will be more visible, or the transparency would be less. Then we have sepia, a very popular color filter. Sepia 30% is the value that we have set over here as the initial value. So as I gradually increase at 100%, it will have a perfect sepia effect, and towards 0 it will be more towards the original image. Okay, like this. Then we'll talk about the saturation. So again, saturation is simple to use. You can have 0% saturation. Similarly, you can have 100% as the saturation, which will be closer to the original image. and 0 being the 100% saturation. So that was all for filters. We will continue with the media types now. So next we will see the media types, and this is another very important topic in terms of CSS3. So media types allows you to format your document based on different types of media, such as your screen or print and etc. You can specify the media dependency using these three types. So one is the media, other one is import, and third one is the link, which is commonly used. So let us see each one of these one by one. So in the @media, it can be used to define different style rules for different media types. So @media followed by comma separated list of media types, it is something that we can use and specify the CSS for each media type. So this is the syntax. You can write @media and then specify the media types. You can write separate code for screens and separate code for print. Okay, so maybe you can consider changing the font size for screen and have different font size for the print. So in this particular example, same font size is going to apply for both the media types. @import is used when you are required to style the information from a specific target media. So @import is usually followed by the URL, and you can also specify the comma separated list of media types. So this is one example. So you can write @import and specify the URL, and you can write the screen as the media type over here. If you have multiple choices, you can of course add comma and set other media types as well. You can also specify another CSS for the print media, something like this. So what difference this media type is going to make? So when you have print and when you try to print the page, so this particular CSS will be applied on the print page. But when user is viewing your page, this particular CSS will be applied. So this makes your life easy in case you want to restrict a certain portion of the screen to not get printed. In that case, you can specify or you can hide those elements inside the print.css, and those elements will not be printed when you take the print out. And then third method is the link method. And to specify the media types, what you can do is you can add media attribute, and link will have a reference to the CSS file, and that file will be applied to the set media value only. So this is one example. You can write link tag like this. You can specify attribute rel equal to style sheet, and in case you want same CSS to be applied to all the media types, so you can write media equal to all. Or in case you want to apply a CSS to certain screen type, then you can write something like this. So in the second example, I have specified media equal to screen, and in the third example, I have written media equal to print. So this particular CSS will be applied only to the print media. Then we'll talk about what are all media types. When you say all, so we're talking about all the media types. So oral is basically used for speech and sound synthesizers. Braille is used for braille tactical feedback devices. Embossed is for page braille printers. When we specify handheld, so handheld is basically used for small or handheld devices like mobiles or small tablets. Print is for printers, and projections is for projectors. Screen is for normal color computer screens. TTY is for teletypes, terminals, portables, and so on. And TV is for televisions. So now this is quite useful when you want to target multiple devices and want to have a certain look on different devices. In that case, you can have multiple CSS files. You can specify the appropriate media type, and the certain selected CSS will be applied to the specific media type. Then we will talk about the media queries. So this is really important when we talk about the responsive web page designing. Using media queries, you can customize the presentation of web pages to certain device sizes. So here is one example. You can write @media and then you can specify the media type, and you can add the conditions like this. Okay, so these styles which you write inside of this parenthesis will be applied only when these criterias are met, that it has to be a screen with minimum width 320 and maximum width as 480. So when you try to view this page on this particular device which basically falls under this category, then these CSS rules will be applied. So this is for smartphones with portrait and landscape mode, and then we have a strict mode for portrait wherein you can write certain CSS where maximum width is 320, and then you can specify for landscape mode where minimum width is, let's say, 320 pixels. And then when a mobile device is opened with this particular display size and in the landscape mode, then these styles will be applied. For tablets, iPads, for both portrait and landscape modes, you can write conditions something like this. So you can notice that we are changing these pixels, and the appropriate styles will be added inside this parenthesis. So continuing, we have additional methods over here. So this one would be for iPads, this one would be for iPads in landscape mode, earlier one is for portrait mode. Then for desktop and laptops, we are saying that the minimum width has to be 1224 pixels, and for even larger scales we can say that if minimum width is 1824, then this set of styles will be applied. Now writing all these set of classes is not really required. Okay, this really requires on what all device types or what are the different screen sizes that you are going to cover. So what happens in media queries is that depending on your screen size, the appropriate code will be selected and only those style sheets will be applied on the web page. So that is how it works perfectly on the responsive pages. So here is one example. So we have one container div and we have specified margin as 0 and auto to it. We have certain background color to it, and also we have specified box sizing as border box. Then on mobile phones, we have specified maximum width as 767 pixels, and there we have updated values of the container. So there we are making width as 100%, and then we have applied padding as 0 10 pixels. So this is nothing but 0 on top and bottom, and 10 is on left and right. And then we have a certain different code for iPads. So this was the default code, and this will get overwritten by your certain screen size. So in case you are trying to view this page from the mobile phones, then this will be overridden. Okay, but because we have not set the margin and other properties over here, so these properties will remain as it is, plus these will be applied. In case you are accessing the web page from tablets, then in that case these properties will be applied. Important thing to notice over here is that when you're developing the page, it's not necessary that you always try to test this page on certain devices. You can just resize your browsers to a certain width or screen size criteria, and you can notice that that particular certain CSS code will be applied depending on the view size. So let us take the examples on media queries and media types, so you understand this concept really better, because this is something that will be really required when we do a small project on CSS, because we are planning to develop one responsive website. So the next example that we are going to check is on media types and media queries. So we have two files, one is HTML, another one is CSS. I have kept these files over here open in the Sublime Text, and this is the HTML file, and you can see the CSS file is referred over here. Then this is the HTML code. We just have basic h3 p tag and div tags over here. So just to demonstrate how media types and how media queries can work in a wonderful way. So this is the CSS code where we have code specifically written for screens and prints. So you can see that common code that I have written is screen and print, wherein the line height is specified as 1.2, and across all the elements we have specified box sizing as border box. Then we have certain code related to navbar and ahref link. So we are just specifying that the text align center and those are going to float to left. So this is just the standard code. We have certain different hover effect using this particular CSS. We are just changing the background color. So let us see everything one by one in the browser window. So we want to understand how the pages are going to work responsive in nature using the code that we have written here. So have this code for your reference. We just try to explain things from the browser itself. So first and foremost, you may have noticed that we have separate code for media type screen and media type print. So this is how the web page is looking on the screen, but when I try to print it, okay, you will notice that there's a different color that is coming. So this is basically specified in the CSS code along the media tags. So you can see it here that for the screen element we have specified color as red, and we have this different color for media type print. Also we have specified different font size and font family, and for the screen we have different font family and font size. Now then when I try to resize this window, okay, so you can notice that some changes will occur. So in terms of this links, if you notice, these are coming one below the other when there is a relatively lesser space. So for desktop size window we have written different code, and for mobile we have different code. So you can also notice difference in terms of font size. So if you notice this particular code .com text, you can notice that it is reducing its size. Okay. Also notice that these columns are displayed next to one another, and but when I resize to the smaller screens, it is divided into 2 by 2 screens. And furthermore, even on the mobile view, those are still remaining into 2 by 2 screens. So let us see how exactly this is happening. So let me just go back to the full screen mode, and if we open the inspect window, okay, so you can see that this code is there. It is getting applied at the moment. To view this page in mobile mode, what you can do is you can click on this particular icon, okay, and from here you can set the device type. So for example, I can specify iPhone X over here, okay, and zoom level as 100%. So this is how the page is going to look on iPhone X screen. Okay, so if I now change it to, let's say, laptop with high DPI screen, okay, so this is how it is going to look. Though the zoom size is 35, it is giving me the smaller picture, but when I increase this size to 100, it will be something like that will be looking on the screen. But let us reduce it to for our understanding over here. So I'm going to reduce it to, let's say, 50%. You can specify this size so it fits to the window. Alright, so let's continue. So we have specified that if minimum width is 200 pixel, so the font size will be set as 70. Also you can see that this particular font is overwritten when the screen size are not matching. So we are talking about the screen size more than 200 over here, so that is why this won't apply. Similarly, this won't apply because this is for minimum width 600. So even this is omitted, and this is the common code that has been applied. So you can see over here. Okay, so this font is also resizing itself automatically. So reason for that is the font size is set for this particular screen item as 70 pixel. So if I reduce the device size, let's say I select again iPhone X, okay, so you can see that the font size is selected as 50 now, and that is happening because this particular section will be considered now. Okay, so let us talk about these tags, that is the nav tags. So you can notice that in the nav block I have specified them as display block, but the inside elements, those are A elements, this is the default code for them, but depending on the screen size we have also added some customizations to it. Okay, so let us see how that is happening exactly. So in the code file, if you notice, on the small devices what we are doing is we are just specifying width as 100% and specifying float as none. We are also specifying columns width as 100 over here, and we are resizing the font size to 30 pixels. So let me just try to reduce size to, let's say, a smaller device maybe. So let me just try to reduce it manually from this page. I'm going to close this one. Okay, and when I just reduce it like this, you can see that the values are coming one below the other, and the code that is being applied is for the smaller screen size, and that is why the float none is getting applied, and it is trying to cover 100% of the width. When I target for the screens with larger size, code is getting changed. When I select here, you can see that we are specifying overflow is hidden over here. Okay, and we are just allowing them to work as inline element by default, so float even is not getting applied. So this is the default behavior of this hyperlinks. We'll talk about these columns over here. Okay, so if you notice, we have 4 columns. We have specified class as row. Okay, so the CSS for this class is here. So we have the row after here. We have specified display type as table. We could have added some content over here, but I guess that is not required, so we're not going to do it. So that is why we have specified here as empty. But if I remove, you can see the slight difference because we just wanted to add some space over there. So we have done this. Alternate way was to add margin. If we remove the table, you can see some level of changes also there. So because of this, it is extracting properties of table. Okay, now to the individual element, let us see what is the code. So we have targeted that on maximum width of 920, we are going to consume 50% as the width, and on the larger screen you can see that the code has got changed, and the code that is being applied is float left, so they again come one after the other, and width we are specified as 25%. So that is why these 4 columns are perfectly occupying this space of 100% each. We have also specified padding, which is, you can see, is being highlighted in the light green color. So I think that is sufficient for this. You must have got the idea how exactly the CSS code gets selected based on the screen types. So we have covered most of the important topics on CSS. So now is the time for the small projects. So we are going to develop a website. So let us start with that.